Every morning, before the world begins demanding your attention, there is a brief and precious moment that belongs entirely to you. It is a silent space where your mind has not yet been pulled in 100 directions, where yesterday's disappointments have not fully awakened, and where today's challenges have not yet taken shape. Most people waste this moment without realizing its value. They reach for their phones, surrender their thoughts to endless distractions, and allow the opinions, expectations, and emotions of others to dictate the course of their day before they have even taken control of themselves. The Stoics understood something that remains just as true today as it was 2,000 years ago. The quality of your morning often determines the quality of your life. Before you can master the world around you, you must first master the world within. No victory over circumstances can compare to the quiet victory of ruling your own mind before sunrise. Marcus Aurelius never knew what crisis awaited him each morning. As emperor, he faced wars, political betrayal, deadly plagues, and endless responsibilities that would have overwhelmed almost anyone. Yet before confronting any of those external problems, he reminded himself of one simple truth. The greatest battle was never against his enemies. It was against his own reactions. Imagine beginning every day with that understanding. Instead of asking whether the world will treat you kindly, you ask whether you will remain calm regardless of how the world behaves. Instead of hoping for easier circumstances, you prepare yourself to become stronger than any circumstance. This subtle change transforms everything because it shifts your attention from what you cannot control to what has always been within your power. That is the foundation of Stoicism. It is not a philosophy designed to make life comfortable. It is a philosophy designed to make you unbreakable. Today, we will explore 5 Stoic habits that can completely transform the way you begin your mornings. These are not complicated rituals requiring expensive tools or perfect conditions. They are timeless mental disciplines practiced by men and women who understood that lasting peace never comes from controlling life. It comes from controlling yourself. The first habit may seem surprisingly simple, but it separates those who drift through life from those who command it. Before doing anything else, take possession of your own mind. Most people wake up already reacting. They react to notifications. They react to emails. They react to headlines. They react to messages filled with other people's emotions, fears, and expectations. Without realizing it, they spend the first hour of the day living inside someone else's priorities instead of their own. The Stoics warned against this long before smartphones existed. They understood that the human mind is constantly vulnerable to outside influence. If you do not deliberately choose your thoughts, someone else will choose them for you. Marcus Aurelius often began his mornings by reminding himself that he would encounter difficult people. He expected selfishness, arrogance, dishonesty, jealousy, and ignorance. This was not pessimism. It was preparation. By accepting reality before facing it, he robbed it of its power to surprise him. Consider how different your day becomes when you expect obstacles instead of demanding perfection. Traffic no longer ruins your mood because delays were always possible. Criticism no longer destroys your confidence because disagreement is part of human nature. Unexpected setbacks no longer feel like personal attacks because life has never promised certainty. This is one of the greatest psychological advantages of Stoicism. It replaces fragile optimism with resilient readiness. As you wake each morning, ask yourself a few simple questions. What kind of person do I want to be today? Which virtues will guide my decisions? What challenges might appear, and how will I respond with wisdom instead of emotion? Notice that none of these questions concern external success. They do not ask whether you will become richer today, receive praise, or avoid problems. They focus entirely on your character, because character is the only possession that cannot be taken from you without your permission. When you establish your internal direction before the world speaks to you, you become remarkably difficult to manipulate. Insults lose much of their force. Praise becomes less intoxicating. Fear begins to loosen its grip. You stop living as a leaf blown by every changing wind and become more like the tree, whose roots grow deeper with every storm. The second Stoic habit is equally powerful, yet increasingly rare in our noisy world. Practice intentional silence before engaging with anyone else. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness. In reality, disciplined silence is one of the greatest demonstrations of inner strength. The person who constantly speaks is frequently trying to prove something. The person who remains comfortably silent usually has nothing left to prove. The Stoics believe that speech should always follow thought, never replace it. In modern life, many people wake up and immediately begin consuming information or expressing opinions. They comment before reflecting. They argue before understanding. They fill every empty moment with noise because silence forces them to confront themselves, but silence is where self-mastery begins. During the quiet hours of the morning, your mind has the opportunity to observe itself without interruption. You begin noticing anxieties that usually hide beneath constant distraction. You recognize habits of thinking that have silently shaped your life for years. You become aware of unnecessary fears, imagined conflicts, and emotional patterns that would otherwise continue controlling you unnoticed. This kind of awareness cannot be purchased. It can only be cultivated. The philosopher Epictetus taught that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should listen more than we speak. That lesson begins long before conversations with other people. It begins by listening honestly to ourselves. When you sit quietly, even for 10 minutes, you create a space where wisdom has room to emerge. Instead of reacting impulsively, you become capable of responding deliberately. There is another hidden power in morning silence. It protects your energy. Every unnecessary argument, every emotional reaction, every attempt to defend your ego consumes mental strength that could have been invested elsewhere. The Stoics treated attention as one of life's most valuable resources, because wherever attention goes, life follows. Imagine beginning each day without immediately scattering your attention across dozens of distractions. Instead, you gather it. You concentrate it. You protect it like a wise investor protecting precious wealth. By the time the rest of the world begins rushing in every direction, your mind remains steady because it has already found its center. That is not accidental. It is the result of disciplined silence. The third Stoic habit may be the hardest for many people, yet it has the greatest potential to transform your future. Choose voluntary discomfort before comfort chooses weakness for you. Human beings naturally seek convenience. We want easier mornings, softer beds, warmer rooms, fewer responsibilities, and immediate gratification. There is nothing unusual about this tendency. It is deeply human. The danger arises when comfort becomes our master instead of our servant. The Stoics regularly practiced voluntary discomfort because they understood an uncomfortable truth. If you never train yourself to endure difficulty willingly, life will eventually force hardship upon you when you are least prepared. Seneca deliberately experienced periods of simplicity despite his wealth. He wore plain clothing, ate modest meals, and reminded himself that happiness never depended on luxury. In doing so, he weakened fear itself. If he could live peacefully with little, then losing much no longer terrified him. This same discipline. Rise when your alarm sounds instead of negotiating with yourself. Take a cold shower occasionally, not because discomfort is magical, but because it teaches your mind that temporary unpleasantness is survivable. Exercise. Before excuses become stronger than intention. Finish the difficult task before rewarding yourself with entertainment. These actions may appear insignificant, but together they reshape your identity. Each time you choose discipline over comfort, you cast a vote for the person you are becoming. Eventually, your confidence no longer depends on positive feelings because you have proven repeatedly that action is possible, even when motivation is absent. This is one of the greatest misconceptions about successful people. Many imagine they possess extraordinary motivation every morning. In reality, the strongest individuals often act despite ordinary emotions. Their discipline has become more reliable than their feelings. The Stoics would remind us that emotions are visitors, not rulers. Some mornings you will feel energetic. Other mornings you will feel tired, discouraged, or uninspired. If your actions depend entirely on those emotions, your life will remain inconsistent. But if your actions depend on principles instead of moods, consistency becomes possible. That is why voluntary discomfort is so valuable. It trains the mind to obey reason instead of impulse. Slowly, almost invisibly, you become someone who no longer fears effort. You stop asking whether something feels easy and begin asking whether it is worthwhile. That single question has the power to change an entire life. As these first 3 habits begin working together, something remarkable happens. You become less reactive, more intentional, calmer under pressure, and increasingly independent from external circumstances. The world may remain chaotic, but your inner world starts developing an order that cannot easily be disturbed. And that is precisely where genuine freedom begins, not in controlling events, but in becoming the kind of person who remains steady regardless of events. The 4th Stoic habit is perhaps the most overlooked, yet it quietly determines whether your entire day will be spent chasing approval or living with purpose. Before you seek achievement, remind yourself what is actually under your control. This single habit is the beating heart of Stoic philosophy. Without it, every other practice eventually loses its foundation. With it, even the most difficult days become opportunities to strengthen your character. Most people wake up carrying invisible expectations. They hope their coworkers will appreciate them. They hope strangers will treat them fairly. They hope their plans will unfold exactly as imagined. They hope success will arrive quickly and that failure will stay far away. But hidden inside every expectation is the possibility of disappointment. The Stoics recognized this truth with remarkable clarity. Epictetus taught that some things depend on us, while others do not. Our judgments, choices, intentions, and actions belong to us. The weather does not. The opinions of others do not. Financial markets do not. Luck does not. The past certainly does not. Every morning, ask yourself one simple question. What belongs to me today? Your effort belongs to you. Your honesty belongs to you. Your patience belongs to you. Your courage belongs to you. Your integrity belongs to you. Everything else is uncertain. Imagine beginning your workday with this mindset. You prepare carefully for an important presentation. You speak clearly, remain composed, and give your best effort. Whether people applaud or criticize is no longer the measure of success. Success was already achieved the moment you acted with excellence. This way of thinking removes an enormous burden from your shoulders. You no longer waste energy trying to force outcomes that have never been yours to command. Instead, every ounce of your attention is invested where it can actually produce results. There is tremendous peace in accepting reality instead of negotiating with it. Many people spend years arguing with facts they cannot change. They replay conversations that already happened. They resent people for behaving according to their own nature. They fight yesterday while neglecting today. The Stoic refuses this endless battle. He understands that reality is not asking for his approval. His responsibility is not to complain about the path. His responsibility is to walk it with dignity. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself that external events possess no power over the soul unless the soul grants permission. An insult is only sound until your judgment transforms it into suffering. A setback is only an event until your interpretation calls it defeat. This insight changes everything. Suppose someone questions your abilities. Most people immediately feel anger or insecurity because they have unknowingly surrendered authority over their emotional state. The Stoic pauses. He asks whether the criticism is true. If it is true, it becomes valuable instruction. If it is false, it deserves no emotional investment. Either way, his peace remains intact. This habit becomes especially important during the first moments of the day because mornings establish your mental direction. If you remind yourself immediately that your character, not circumstances, is your true responsibility, you build an inner stability that lasts long after breakfast is finished. Think about how much anxiety disappears when you stop demanding certainty from an uncertain world. You cannot control whether opportunities appear. You can control whether you are prepared. You cannot control whether people admire you. You can control whether you behave honorably. You cannot control how long life lasts. You can control how well you live today. These distinctions seem simple, yet they are powerful enough to transform an ordinary life into an extraordinary one. The fifth and final Stoic morning habit gathers everything we have discussed into one complete philosophy of living. Begin every day with gratitude for the obstacle that has not yet arrived. At first, this sounds strange. Why would anyone feel grateful for difficulty before it even appears? Because the Stoics understood something that modern society often forgets. Comfort rarely produces greatness. Challenges do. Every meaningful quality you admire, patience, courage, resilience, wisdom, discipline, compassion, was forged through hardship. No one develops bravery without fear. No one develops endurance without struggle. No one develops wisdom without making mistakes. Obstacles are not interruptions to your growth, they are your growth. Marcus Aurelius expressed this beautifully when he wrote that the obstacle standing in the way becomes the way itself. Most people wake hoping for an easy day. The Stoic wakes hoping for the strength to use whatever the day provides. Notice the difference. One mindset depends upon favorable circumstances. The other depends upon personal virtue. This is why Stoicism remains timeless. Its promise is not that life becomes easier. Its promise is that you become stronger. Imagine that your morning commute is delayed. Instead of frustration, you practice patience. Imagine a difficult client challenges your professionalism. Instead of reacting emotionally, you practice composure. Imagine an unexpected financial setback forces you to reconsider your plans. Instead of despair, you practice adaptability. Each obstacle becomes another opportunity to exercise the very virtues you claim to value. Without resistance, strength remains theoretical. Only through challenge does it become real. The same principle exists throughout nature. A tree exposed to steady winds develops deeper roots than one sheltered from every storm. Steel becomes stronger only after passing through intense heat. The human spirit follows the same law. Every hardship endured with wisdom leaves you more capable than before. This is why the Stoics never encourage people to fear adversity. They encourage them to prepare for it. Preparation dissolves panic. Discipline weakens fear. Perspective transforms suffering into instruction. When you begin each morning expecting opportunities to practice virtue rather than opportunities to collect comfort, your relationship with life changes completely. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" You begin asking, "What is this teaching me?" That single question has rescued countless people from bitterness. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every disappointment becomes training. Every criticism becomes feedback. Every delay becomes an opportunity to cultivate patience. Gradually, your enemies lose their ability to disturb you because they unknowingly become your teachers. Your failures lose their power to shame you because they become your education. Even your fears begin losing their authority because you repeatedly discover that you are capable of enduring far more than you once believed. This is the quiet confidence that Stoicism produces. It is not loud. It does not seek admiration. It does not announce itself. It simply remains steady while everything around it changes. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. Every sunrise offers two possibilities. You can begin the day as a victim of circumstances waiting to discover whether the world will be kind enough to let you feel peaceful. Or you can begin as a Stoic, carrying your peace within you, knowing it cannot be stolen by criticism, delayed by inconvenience, or destroyed by temporary hardship. The choice is made long before the first challenge appears. It is made in those quiet morning moments when no one is watching. It is made when you choose discipline instead of comfort, silence instead of distraction, reflection instead of reaction, purpose instead of impulse. Control over yourself instead of obsession with controlling the world. Practice these 5 habits consistently, not for a week or a month, but for years. Do not expect dramatic transformation overnight. The strongest oak does not grow in a single season. Character is built one decision at a time, one morning at a time, one quiet victory at a time. Eventually, you will notice something remarkable. The world has not become less chaotic. People have not become less difficult. Life has not become more predictable, but you have become someone who no longer depends on those things to remain calm. That is the freedom the Stoics pursued. That is the strength they left behind. And that strength is available to anyone willing to begin each new day with wisdom, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to mastering the only thing that has ever truly belonged to them, their own mind. If you have listened this far, you have probably realized that these 5 Stoic habits are not simply morning routines. They are a way of seeing life itself. They are daily reminders that your greatest responsibility is not to control the world, but to govern your own character. Many people spend years searching for a secret that will instantly transform their lives. They chase the perfect opportunity, the perfect relationship, the perfect career, or the perfect moment to begin. Yet the Stoics would gently remind them that no external change can create lasting peace if the mind remains undisciplined. Real transformation is quieter than most people imagine. It happens when you choose patience instead of anger. It happens when you remain silent instead of arguing. It happens when you continue working after motivation disappears. It happens when you refuse to let another person's opinion decide your worth. These moments rarely receive applause. No one gathers to celebrate the private victories that shape an extraordinary character. Yet these unseen decisions eventually become the foundation of an exceptional life. Consider the lives of history's greatest Stoics. They did not live in peaceful times. Marcus Aurelius ruled during war and plague. Epictetus lived part of his life as a slave. Seneca endured political conspiracy, exile, and eventually a death sentence. None of them waited for perfect circumstances before practicing wisdom. Their greatness came from understanding a truth that many people still struggle to accept today. Peace is not found when life finally becomes easy. Peace is found when your inner world no longer depends on outer events. Imagine waking tomorrow morning with this understanding firmly rooted in your mind. Before reaching for your phone, you pause, you breathe. You remember that your thoughts are your first responsibility. You choose silence instead of instant distraction. You welcome discipline instead of comfort. You focus on what is truly within your control. You accept that obstacles are not enemies but teachers. Then you step into the day, already prepared not because you know what will happen, but because you know who you intend to be. How different would your conversations become? How different would your work become? How different would your relationships become? Most importantly, how different would you become? The answer lies not in dramatic change, but in remarkable consistency. Stoicism has never promised perfection. In fact, Marcus Aurelius often wrote reminders to himself because even he struggled. Despite being one of the most powerful men on earth, he still had to practice patience. He still had to guard his thoughts. He still had to overcome frustration, pride, and fatigue. That should encourage all of us. You are not expected to master your emotions overnight. You are expected to return to the practice every single day. Some mornings your discipline will feel effortless. Other mornings, every habit will require conscious effort. Practice them anyway. The value of these habits is not measured by how easy they become. It is measured by who they gradually shape you into. Think of a sculptor standing before a massive block of marble. With one strike of the chisel, almost nothing appears to change. After 100 strikes, the stone still seems nearly untouched. But after thousands of patient, deliberate movements, a masterpiece slowly emerges. Character is built in exactly the same way. Each morning reflection is another strike. Each moment of self-control is another strike. Each refusal to react impulsively is another strike. Each obstacle accepted with courage is another strike. Over time, the person you once were begins to disappear, replaced by someone calmer, wiser, and stronger. This is why consistency is more valuable than intensity. Anyone can feel inspired for one day. Anyone can be disciplined for one morning. The challenge is to continue when excitement fades and routine begins. That is where true Stoic strength reveals itself. The philosopher is not recognized by the books he owns or the quotes he shares. He is recognized by the stability of his character when life becomes difficult. Anyone can appear calm when everything goes according to plan. The Stoic remains calm when plans fall apart. Anyone can be generous when abundance surrounds them. The Stoic remains generous during scarcity. Anyone can speak kindly when treated with respect. The Stoic chooses kindness even when confronted with hostility. This is not weakness, it is mastery. There is a profound difference between reacting emotionally and responding wisely. Reaction is immediate. Response is intentional. Reaction is driven by impulse. Response is guided by principle. Every morning gives you another opportunity to strengthen that difference. Perhaps one day you will realize that the greatest gift these habits have given you is not greater productivity or greater success. Although those often follow, the greatest gift is freedom. Freedom from the endless need for approval. Freedom from being controlled by temporary emotions. Freedom from fearing every obstacle. Freedom from allowing criticism to define your value. Freedom from believing that happiness always lies somewhere in the future. Instead, happiness begins to appear in the present moment because you finally understand that a well-governed mind is richer than any possession. Imagine reaching the end of your life and looking back. Will you remember every email you answered? Every social media notification? Every argument you won? Probably not, but you will remember the person you became. You will remember whether you lived according to your values or abandoned them whenever life became difficult. The Stoics constantly reflected on mortality, not to create fear, but to create urgency. Each morning is a gift that has not been promised. Each sunrise is another opportunity to practice virtue. One day, there will be a morning when none of us will wake again. Knowing this should not make us anxious. It should make us grateful. Grateful for another chance to improve. Grateful for another opportunity to forgive. Grateful for another day to strengthen our character. Grateful for another sunrise that allows us to become just a little wiser than we were yesterday. So tomorrow morning, before the noise of the world reaches you, remember these 5 habits. Take possession of your own mind. Before anything else, protect your peace through intentional silence. Choose discipline over comfort. Focus only on what is truly within your control. Welcome obstacles as opportunities to grow. Practice them faithfully. Practice them patiently. Practice them whether anyone notices or not, because the strongest people are often the quietest. The wisest people are often the most humble, and the freest people are those who have discovered that nothing outside themselves has the power to rule their minds. As Marcus Aurelius quietly reminded himself each day, your life becomes what your thoughts make it. Choose those thoughts carefully every morning. Choose them wisely, and in doing so, you may gradually discover that the day no longer controls you. You begin to control yourself. And that changes everything. If this message resonated with you, carry at least one of these habits into tomorrow morning. Do not try to become perfect overnight. Simply become a little stronger than you were yesterday. If you found value in this reflection, consider sharing it with someone who may need these words today. And if you want to continue exploring the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, Stay with us for more lessons that strengthen the mind, deepen the character, and prepare you for whatever life places in your path. Until next time, remember this: the strongest morning is not the one that begins with comfort. It is the one that begins with purpose.